KIDO Talk Radio, Kevin Miller in the morning. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Blessed to be a part of your day. You know, there's a big controversy going on concerning, well, there's always a controversy. That's why we call it talk radio, I guess. But there's a controversy going on concerning the census. You know, we've heard about this, about California, and whether or not the word citizen should be used when someone knocks on your door and says, hey, I'm filling out the census, or when the census drops something off and you have to fill it out, how many people are in your family, these sorts of things, right? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So people are worried that all of a sudden that if you use the term citizen, that it's going to be offensive to people, right? So the Commerce Department, thanks to President Trump, thank you, President Trump, is reinstating the citizenship question for the census coming up. Now, the libs are very, very upset. The libs are saying, well, this is wrong. This is horrible. This is absurd, right? We're going to have undercounted people. People in California could be losing massive amounts of people to vote. And what that means essentially is that, you know, they're going to be underrepresented in Congress because the makeup of the House of Representatives is based on population. That's why California has, 50, 60 congressmen, something of that nature. The beauty of our great republic, though, is that you still have the Senate that you still have two senators, no matter how big or small your state may be. So now this comes to the state of Idaho, and people are wondering, well, what happens if people ask the citizen question here, right? How in the world can we live in a place where people are upset about the word citizen? Isn't being a citizen of the United States of America a compliment? You know what I mean? Now, again, you have this headline from the paper, the U.S. Commerce Department's decision to add a controversial citizenship question to the 2020 census. You notice I have trouble saying the word citizen. Citizen has caused a storm of controversy and some alarm and uncertainty, right? In fast-growing Idaho, which has a rapidly increasing Hispanic population and areas that researchers say are difficult to count. Now, what is offensive about, is this person a citizen of the United States of America? Is this person a resident of the state of Idaho? And why do the liberals throw in race? They say the increasing Hispanic population. Are we to infer, or is the article implying that people of this ethnicity are not here legally? To me, that's a pretty racist statement. But you have the paper doing what the paper does, getting things going. You've got Margie Gonzalez, Executive Director of the Idaho Commission on Hispanic Affairs. This is offensive. The ultimate goal was to make sure everyone in our state was counted. We've been so careful for so many years. This is taking us back. Is it taking us back to say, are you a citizen? 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And if you're not a citizen, why are we counting you anyway? Earl in Meridian with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Earl.
Good morning, Kevin. To you and your staff, just a wonderful show. Love listening to you guys. It's really funny that they're fighting this when the entire point behind the census is to gather statistics. They're not going to be using this to kick people out of the country. We're trying to get an accurate count of the people that live in the United States, and part of that accurate count has to be, are you a citizen? Are you not? It's a statistic. That's it. How are they even going to use that to gerrymander any sort of voting area? How are they going to use that to determine if the proper representation is going on, since a lot of that is just basically regional and not specific to an address, if that makes sense. From my understanding of the census, we're just gathering statistics about what's going on in the United States with our population. Makes no sense to me that they're having issues with this when we have gender questions, when we have questions about race. I just don't get their argument. The argument that it's racist, prejudicial or racist, I'm just having a real issue with that, because there's going to be more illegal aliens than just Hispanic. There's going to be illegal aliens from other countries. We do have that issue. So their argument doesn't hold water.
Right, but I mean, to say that it is offensive and everything else, I mean,
I agree.
What world are we living in?
In my personal opinion, they're going to fight anything that Trump does, period. Everything that comes out of Trump's mouth, President Trump, everything that comes out of President Trump's mouth, they fight. If this were reverse and we were counting the population and it was considered part of the vote, they'd be fighting for it nonstop. So they just fight absolutely everything. And they're playing the political game, and they're going to lose. I truly do agree that as they continue to play these games, the mainstream media continues to support them, the more they're alienating the American public. I don't understand how they don't recognize that.
Well, it seems like it's coming to Idaho here, California.
Oh, it's funny. I just came back from Reno, and on the way in, I stopped at a gas station, and he said, yeah, we had about 90 people come through yesterday, and they were all people from California moving to Idaho.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a minute. So we're saying, so you have reports out of Reno that the Californians are coming to get us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was somewhere in Oregon. On the way back, I stopped to get gas, and it was just funny as heck, because I said, hey, how's business today? And he goes, oh, yesterday we had 90 people, almost all from California, moving to Idaho. So
the caravan of Californians continues.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, Kevin, thank you very much for allowing me to air my opinion. This is a very frustrating process to me that we are continuously fighting President Trump on everything the Democrats are doing this. And it doesn't matter what he says, what he does, they fight him nonstop. And it's just, again, it's alienating the American public more and more.
Earl, happy Easter.
Happy Easter. Pleasant Friday to you, sir. Please congratulate your staff and have a great day, sir.
You too. Take care, Earl. Blair in Boise with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Blair.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Living the dream, and you?
Oh, not too bad. Hey, a couple of points. The question about citizenship, it got dropped from the 2010 census from none other than our former president. It had been on there for almost 80 years prior. So the hullabaloo over this should have been when he pulled it off the census in the first place. There's no controversy here. I don't understand it. And then just to add to what Earl said, apparently California in the last year has lost about 150,000 net people. So yeah, they have a right to be concerned, but it's because of their own policies.
I would agree with you on that, but I mean, I don't think all the good people are coming here.
Well, we can't really control who comes here, but yeah, I mean, California is definitely losing citizens to the other states because of their, they're basically pushing out business. They're pushing out individual people. You can't live down there anymore. It's too expensive. I mean, when a gallon of milk is $4.50, and a gallon of gas is $6, it's pretty hard to, survive.
Must be a heck of a gallon of milk.
It's got to be. I don't know. Maybe, Maybe it's all those additives and stuff. No, California doesn't do that, do they?
No. Well, Blair, I just go back to this point that you have people saying that this is offensive. Are you a citizen really is offensive? I think that's absurd.
Well, if you want to get into something that's offensive, when was the last time that we had representation of people who were not legal to vote? Let's see. I think that was back during the 3/5 compromise. That ought to be really, really offensive to people.
Blair, great point. Thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio.
Have a great day, Kevin. Bye.
Oh, bye-bye. And that's really what it comes down to, that people are saying, like in Idaho, we're going to lose representation. How can we lose representation because non-citizens can't vote? And if you can't vote, it doesn't matter about population. This is what it comes down to, whether or not California is going to get 70 congressmen. And maybe that's how they take over. They just have more congressmen and congresswomen from any other place so they can elect leadership, they can vote in a block, they can do all these great things. But the idea in Idaho that you have somebody from the nonpartisan, I wonder how many nonpartisan votes they have there, saying that this is offensive. Can anybody find offense with asking someone whether or not you're a citizen? How is that offensive? It just doesn't seem that way to me. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And then you have, again, the paper, the Liberal Pravda here, actually saying Idaho could be underrepresented. Really? Tell me how that works. It is absurd that we're not counting people as citizens and saying, are you a citizen? No, I'm not a citizen. Well, then you can't vote, right? Researchers at the Center for Urban Research of the City University of New York say some areas of the country have census tracts that will be difficult to count. The center's interactive map of hard-to-count areas include tracts in Idaho. Bingham County is one of them, right? Jeffrey Lyons, an assistant professor at Boise State, says he does not think any undercount would be large enough to affect Idaho's congressional boundaries. That's more of a California problem. The Golden State has already sued Trump to block the citizenship question. Now you've got the California Attorney General going at it. Lyons says if large numbers of Hispanic residents decline to participate because they fear the federal government, the census data could be tarnished. Why do we continue to throw in race in this? Because if I would say, hypothetically, that the majority of the people coming here illegally are of one ethnicity or another, that could be construed as racism, right? It's like the libs, especially in the paper, want to have it both ways. So if you're here illegally, shouldn't you fear the federal government? Shouldn't you fear enforcement? If I was living illegally in China or Mexico or Canada, then I would, because I would be breaking the law. Idaho John with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Hey, Kevin, I heard you say a while ago that you were afraid that with all the influx of Californians that our political constitution of the state would be affected. And I think we saw that with Colorado. I would like to throw my hat in the corner for Brad Little because I think Idaho is a pretty good state, and that's why people move here. And I think if we don't support a governor that is pro-Idaho, we're going to lose our state, and we will end up like Colorado.
Well, and we know what happened with Colorado. We had a bunch of people, actually, it's amazing, that had a ton of money and turned that state red to purple to blue.
Exactly. And with our growth and our infrastructure, I think our impact fees on new development need to be really up because we can't keep up. And they right now we have a corridor of two ways to Caldwell with the interstate and Shinden Boulevard. And if we plug up Shinden Boulevard, you're down to one way. So I think we need to keep that open as much as we can, and maybe bring some access roads into the major intersections on Highway 2026 rather than to put a stoplight every half a mile like they've done on Eagle Road.
Well, that is brutal. So, Idaho John, back to citizenship and Brad Little. Anything else you want to say? You're one of the few people that have called in to support Brad Little. We urge everybody to call in to talk about their candidates. Why, in particular, do you like Brad Little over the other folks? Well,
I hear you guys bash Otter a little bit, and for 12 years, I know that I'm an Idahoan by heart and by virtue of birth and all that. Sure. And the people that move in, they move to Idaho because of how Idaho is. And I think Butch Otter has done a very good job in a lot of aspects. I have to say, may not be perfect. And Brad Little's has a few differences. He has his own opinions, and I think he's core Idaho. If we want to keep Idaho open and hunting and fishing and our agriculture and timber, what little we have left of that, I think he's the guy that can lead us that way. And I don't believe Tommy Ahlquist is really full-hearted Idaho. I think he's maybe like the used car salesman of the three candidates. He talks a good game, and as you've seen his political ads on the TV, he's already attacked the other two as where they've held their hats high and not gone that route. So anyway, I wish Labrador would have stayed in Washington. I think he was doing a great job for Idaho there, and but if he chooses to come back to Idaho, I definitely understand that. All right, Idaho John, don't be a stranger. All right. Thank you, sir. You have a good day. You too. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up next, do you believe in UFOs? Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
Stick this story in the X-Files because the Federal Aviation Administration can't explain it. The pilots of two planes flying over the Arizona desert both report seeing a UFO in February. The FAA making the radio conversations public now.
Was anybody above us that passed us like 30 seconds ago?
Number 71 Papa Golf negative.
Okay. Something. A UFO.
A Learjet pilot first asked if anybody was flying above his plane. A few minutes later, an American Airlines pilot said something was over his plane. The FAA unable to confirm if there were other aircraft in the area. Jill Nato, Fox News.
Are they coming for us? Who knows? More on that in a minute. And Kevin Miller in the morning here. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. I was going back to just hearing that. This would have been great when we were at UltraTouch to play this because we're out, it's cold, it's dark, and you hear this.
Was it a Google balloon? UFO.
UFO. So now the FAA actually releasing audio. And whether you hang out in the desert in Idaho or Nevada or Oregon or wherever, this is prime UFO spotting. So coming up, do you believe that, we've got these folks, these aliens that are watching us? I don't think that they would have a problem if the census would say to them, are you a citizen? Because clearly they're not from here.
An American 1095, can you tell if it was in motion or just hovering?
Make it out whether it was a balloon or whatnot, but it was just really either bright or had a big reflection on it several thousand feet above us going opposite directions.
I wonder, in our lifetime, at 580-KIDO, are we going to live in a world where these people actually out themselves, the UFO people? Of course, some people have said that there's an X-Files-like department in the government where the military has been keeping some of these vehicles that have crashed, little green men, that sort of things. The rumor, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, is allegedly where they keep these folks. Maybe Area 51.
It's American 1095. Yeah, something just passed over us. Don't know what it was, but it's at least 2,000-3,000 feet above us. Yeah, it passed right over the top of us.
You ever seen a UFO? Now, I know we're dating ourselves when we say probably the best UFO movie ever, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Maybe you've rented it. Maybe you've seen it on Netflix. Maybe it's on YouTube. But really, what would we do? And you have those spooky fears when you've listened to too much George Norrie and you're camping and you hear that, oh my, what's that?
You know if anything passes over?
American 1095 affirmative. We had an aircraft in front of you that's 37 that reported something pass over him, and we didn't have any targets. So just let me know if you see anything pass over you.
Sure. I'll get right on that. Of course, what happens if they get you with the transportation beam or something of that nature? Now, most of us, I think, like to live in a relative abyss where we just kind of sit back and say to ourselves, I'm just going to deny these things. But here we have the FAA. Maybe it's disinformation. Maybe it's fake news releasing this stuff.
I don't know what it was. It wasn't an airplane, but the path was going the opposite direction. And was anybody above us that passed us like 30 seconds ago?
Number 71 Papa Golf negative.
Okay. It's a UFO. Yeah.
And our friend Jim, for us and Kevin, may not mean to get us. That's right, the UFOs. Well, hopefully they won't get us. They'll get the bad people. I like that all of a sudden, maybe that would be a good sitcom where all of a sudden you would have somebody who's a alien here illegally. Maybe they've done that, where they're an alien, but not an alien of a country, like an illegal alien, but like illegal alien. You know what I mean? Might be a little too heady so early in the morning. Our time, 31 after the hour. Let's find out what's happening in your world. Good morning, Doug. And let's go to our friend John Decker at the White House, Fox News Radio on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, John.
Hey, good morning to you, Kevin. How are you doing today?
Boy, a busy week, another firing at the White House. I'm glad you're still with us.
Well, I don't work for the president, fortunately. I'd have to look over my shoulder if I did. This was a matter of really when the firing of Secretary Shulkin would happen, not if it would happen. He had clearly created a lot of attention thrust upon himself with that Inspector General's report, which indicated that he improperly used government funds for personal travel. That's just a no-no, especially after what happened last fall with Secretary Tom Price, who was fired for essentially doing the same thing.
That seems to be an issue here. What was the fallout from the recent firing? Just more of the same, and the fact that the president took to Twitter to fire someone else again.
Yeah, this comes just a few weeks after the president essentially fired Rex Tillerson as Secretary of State by Twitter. So there are going to be a number of confirmation hearings occurring simultaneously, very unusual. So you'll have a hearing for confirming the president's choice once he nominates him to be VA Secretary, his personal physician, Ronnie Jackson, Dr. Ronnie Jackson, Rear Admiral Dr. Ronnie Jackson. He's going to have some tough questions to answer, by the way, because let's face it, the Department of Veterans Affairs, the second largest department in our government, it's a huge bureaucracy. It treats 9 million U.S. military veterans, $200 billion budget, and Dr. Jackson has never managed such a large bureaucracy. So he's going to get a lot of questions regarding that from both Republicans and Democrats during his confirmation hearing.
Speaking of which, of course, probably a person that will get some of the headlines will be John McCain. I believe he's writing a book, winding down his career. Of course, he's got some time left in the Senate, battling that terrible disease. Any other people that we should be looking at? And again, this is off the rails, and you're going, Kevin Miller, when is your time with me ever on the rails? But John McCain's influence, you worked in the Senate. You know Senator McCain. Your thoughts on just John McCain in general?
Well, I'm a huge fan of John McCain. I consider him one of America's great American heroes. I do some events for Senator McCain with his McCain Institute, moderating events for him in that regard. So I've gotten to know him over the years. I interviewed him for my book, Great Dads, where he discussed the influence that his father had upon him. So I can't say enough great things about John McCain. he's had and continues to have such a great mark on this country.
You know, he never backs down from a fight. We had a chance to talk to him once, and I just mentioned somebody that had worked with him for, 10 years ago. The guy doesn't miss a beat. I don't think a lot of Americans know just how quick-witted Senator McCain is.
Oh, he's funny. He's a funny guy. There's no doubt about it. He's got a very sharp sense of humor. And at the same time, let's also talk about, we all have our faults. He's got a temper, and that's one of his faults. And, it was certainly talked about quite a bit when he ran for president. But, his good traits far outnumber his bad traits. And let's wish him well, as he continues to battle what he's battling out in Arizona, and hope he comes back to the Senate real soon.
Indeed. Of course, finally, the senator, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, doesn't have a problem taking it to the administration. He had those legendary battles in the primaries, of course, during the Bush administration. Any softening of the relationship between the president and Senator McCain at all?
Well, I think that they've made peace with one another, that John McCain is never going to be a fan of President Trump, and the same can be said for John McCain not being a fan favorite of President Trump. So look, they've sort of marked their own territory, and you may notice the president really doesn't go after John McCain in any sense anymore when he does those campaign style events. I think he's grown to have respect for the senior senator from Arizona and the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, and he should. He's done, as I mentioned, so much for our country.
John Decker, always appreciate the insight. No matter what we throw at you, you always have the answers. So
well, thanks. I'm going to be I'm going to make an appearance tonight as a panelist on Washington Week in Review, and you can watch it on Idaho Public TV tonight at 7 p.m. I believe your PBS affiliate is KAID, and we'll be talking about some of the things that we always talk about, including whether or not the president may pardon some of the members of his inner circle as the Robert Mueller investigation heats up.
I am writing it down to watch it tonight, John. Thank you.
Excellent. I'll talk to you real soon. Have a great weekend. Happy Easter to you and to your audience, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you, John, and you as well. Thank you. Bye-bye. There we have it. John Decker promoting his appearance on PBS. Kevin Miller in the morning. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDR. Thoughts and prayers, whether we agree with John McCain or not, truly go out to him. By the way, if you're looking to do something to help folks, how about the family of the 22-year-old mother who was stabbed to death in Nampa? Her family issued a statement to the public through the Canyon County Sheriff's Office. We'll get to that in a minute, but at KIDOTalkRadio.com, I put up a blog about supporting law enforcement. And we used to joke in the Treasure Valley. We used to joke all the time. In fact, sometimes we still do. We joke about the news coverage or the news stories. And look, you can't blame the local press when, your biggest story is a bike lane or, hey, there's a Prius that's going to help you collect taxes, that's going to help make, to be more efficient in collecting parking fines. That's better than multiple shootings, but recently we've been hearing and seeing these things, right? So here's how you can help. Here's a statement from the family of Kimberly Kim Larson. Quote, "Our family would like to thank neighbors, community, and friends who have supported us during this difficult time. We want to acknowledge the first responders for their swift and justified actions that undoubtedly saved our loved ones from further tragedy in this senseless event. The family asked for prayers, privacy, monetary donations to a GoFundMe account for funeral expenses and care of Larson's infant, Donovan, who will not have his mom. Diapers, clothes, and other items for babies may be dropped off at the Nampa Police Department. That's 820 2nd Street in Nampa. Kim Larson died at the scene of multiple slash and stab wounds, according to the Canyon County Sheriff's Office. The suspect in Larson's death was identified by the Sheriff's Office as 29-year-old Evan Bashir of Meridian. Bashir died of multiple gunshot wounds at the hands of Nampa police officers. Again, showing you the dangers of not only for us living here, but of the dangers police officers face. Two officers confronted Bashir in a house. They're on paid administrative leave. One fired his weapon. The officers were not injured, and 3 young children at the scene were unharmed. Well, thank goodness for the police. Thank goodness that they were there. And then you have other people saying this about Kim Larson. She was the happiest, sweetest, most giving person I've ever met in my entire life. So if you can help that little baby boy, please donate to the Nampa Police Department. Tea Party Bob joins us now, Gem State Patriot at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Tea Party Bob.
Good morning, Mr. Miller, and how are you today?
I am living the dream, and you?
Well, I'd love to be living the dream, but the legislature was such a disappointment. I'm living a nightmare. You know, once again, the big money corporations and lobbyists, along with the governor and the leadership, have won another session of the legislature by suppressing the bills that would have given Idaho citizens more freedom and more of their earnings in their pockets instead of in the coffers of the state.
Now, wait a minute. We got the largest tax cut ever. I'm looking at my paycheck and going, wow, I've gotten a lot more money thanks to the state of Idaho.
Very untrue. The largest tax cut in history was thanks to Russ Fulcher for getting the grocery tax credit passed. This tax break that they say they gave us was bigger for the corporations and a lot less for the little people. You know, when you keep people in office too long, they tend to forget that they were elected in the first place to serve the people. Leadership killed the CBD oil bill, leaving thousands of Idahoans vulnerable to pain of diseases that could be controlled, and forces them to find other illegal means to obtain these important medicines. You know, they refused to bring up the repeal of the grocery tax, and that would have helped hundreds of thousands of Idahoans feed their families, especially in a lower income area.
Yeah, but let's jump in here for a minute. Where was the outrage from anybody? I didn't hear any elected official go to the floor, hold a news conference, and say, this is ridiculous. We passed this the last time, and why haven't we brought this up? I did see Mike Moyle say that the governor wasn't going to pass it when Heather Scott tried to bring it up. We have the other guy in the Senate that got mad about the CBD oil and took everybody behind a closed-door meeting. He got a slap on the wrist. But where was the outrage? I mean, repealing the grocery tax is a nonpartisan issue.
I agree with you 100%. And again, it all comes down to the fact that the governor controls what goes on, and he's controlled by the big corporations and the lobbyists, the people who pay for his campaign and have paid for his campaign for the past 12 years. You know, this has been another winning session for Otter and his cronies. Now, I hear administration touting the advances Idaho has made in wage increases compared to the rest of the country. Keep in mind, we have been almost dead last in median household income for almost the past 20 years. And we got a long way to go to catch up to the rest of the country. So I must say the comments by one of your callers was very misguided about Lieutenant Governor Little. He has done little or nothing to move this state forward, and has been the governor's whipping boy since he has been in as lieutenant governor. He says he's pro-life. He votes to give Planned Parenthood more money to do more abortions. He supported the governor's health care exchange. And he did nothing publicly about the governor's veto of the groceries tax or the CBD oil. This guy is not a leader, and he's not a good choice for governor. We have some serious problems here, and we need to get more conservatives elected in this next primary. So let everybody start thinking a little bit when they go to the voting booths and start thinking about who should they really vote for. And stop voting for the idiots that are now running it. It's time for change, people. Wake up. They're going to keep stealing from your pocketbook and robbing you blind until you wake up and get them out of office.
Tea Party Bob, the publisher of the Gem State Patriot, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. C3PO on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. I want to speak for the value of public education and post-high school education.
A defender of public education on this show. Great.
Yeah, I'm a survivor of public education. And really good parents, and I'll just go real quick through it. 1839 is when my people came to Idaho, so I'm back again and very much interested in public education. The concept I had, I've mentioned it once, was I would love to see those kids that are junior high level in debate team out there in Caldwell. You've had this.
Right, Columbia High School's debate team. They do a real good job.
Have those children present the questions to a panel and have a public debate with the wannabe governors, and let them come up with the questions and the agenda. Because after all, they are at least as smart as any of these men running for the governorship. And I concur with what Tea Party Bob said. If we don't get proactive, 20 years from now, we're going to be last place and last. And nobody likes to lose, but everybody has to. I mean, the whole state doesn't have to. The only thing that I get a little bit concerned about is Obama push change.
Great call. Thank you very much. Coming up next, we'll talk to our friend Mike Tracy, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you, Ray Amaya. There we have it. When George Noory was here talking UFOs, talking about a lot of things here, taking your phone calls at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Mike Tracy joins us now. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Good Friday, and happy Easter, Kevin.
And to you. Boy, it's been a while.
It has. I've been just a tad bit busy, a part of it with the legislature, which our friend Bob, Tea Party Bob, was talking about just a little while ago.
Yes, sir.
Well, this year was my 30th anniversary of covering the legislature, working in the legislature, and on all sides of it. And there's a couple of observations. Number one, it may be the most conservative legislature I've ever seen in terms of voting, the number of Republicans, the number of conservative Republicans. And if you look at the IdahoFreedomIndex.com and look at the voting records of the votes that the Idaho Freedom Foundation kept track of, which is a very conservative organization, I think Tea Party Bob would agree, you'll see that they voted very conservatively, and they did hold the governor's feet to the fire. And there's no such thing as a perfect session, but they got a lot accomplished on the conservative agenda in Idaho, and probably as much or more than anything I've seen in 30 years. Now, in 1995, we had to turn things around because Cecil Landris had been in power for 8 years, and we had to undo a lot of what he did. But in terms of what I've seen since 95, this was easily the most conservative in terms of legislation. Butch Otter and the legislature and the judiciary there's three branches of government. There's push and pull between all of them, and nobody gets everything they want. And House Rev and Tax Chairman Gary Collins from Canyon County is a very conservative guy. He has pushed conservative tax policy and tax bills out of that committee for years. And we're very lucky to have someone like him as chairman and watching what goes out of the committee and watching what he holds in the committee. And we're very lucky to have a gatekeeper like that watching over our tax bills. And that's something very important to keep track of. Laws do not get passed that the legislature does not want to have passed.
Or in the case the governor doesn't want to have passed.
Well, the governor, if the legislature
when Mike Moyle goes on TV and says the governor says no to the repeal of the grocery tax and they're afraid to bring it up, I think that's an issue. When you have another senator who says the governor, the attorney general, and everybody else, they don't want this, so we're not going to have a hearing on it, and he closes the door, and all of a sudden the press is there. I mean, the media. That was a bad call at the line of scrimmage. People legitimately or illegitimately, Mike, are questioning the independence of the legislature.
Well, I certainly understand that. And if they don't feel like they have the votes to override a veto, they look at it and say, okay, we can't get it passed. The governor said he's going to veto this if it passes, and the vote counters will take a look at that and say, okay, we don't have enough votes to override a veto. You need 2/3 in both houses. If they don't have those 2/3 votes, they look at it and say, we're just not going to be able to do it this year. But I think, you need to take a look at who might be the next governor. And, as you pointed out, there was a tax bill that was passed substantial. It's going to help me as a small business owner, and it's also going to help me as as an average Idahoan earning really average income.
All right, Mike Tracy, we got to run. Happy belated birthday. Good morning, Dave. All right, Larry Gebert, thank you very much. Kevin Miller in the morning on KIDO Talk Radio. Don't forget the KIDO Talk Radio app, available at Google Plus and the App Store. It is free, and you can take KIDO Talk Radio anywhere. You just hit one button, and boom, you're with us. Fox News is next on your home for Fox News on the radio here in the Treasure Valley, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.